Do you think the Bengals should tank to get a better draft pick?
No. No, because what happens in the draft? Look at Zach Wilson, pick number 2 in the draft. Like you never know. Hey, look at Miles Murphy, best player available. We're getting this steal at defensive end at the end of the draft. The draft is a crapshoot, and like to be not to be morbid, but like, what if you're not here? What if you die? Like, I know we're all young and healthy and whatnot, but like, what if this is your last year on the planet? Do you want your last year on the planet to be the Bengals just losing out in like pathetic fashion for the rest of the season? I don't know. I just think about it like that. I want them to win every game all the time because I love watching a Bengal game. I prefer it to anything else in the world. Is my favorite thing to do, and I want it to be a positive experience. I want them to win. I don't care we're going to pick 10th or we're going to pick 15th or 20th. It's all the crapshoot. You don't know who's going to pan out. Just let me, from a personal standpoint, let me enjoy my Sundays with a Bengal win, as opposed to, oh, please let us lose. I don't care. This is a waste. I might not be here next year. Nothing's guaranteed in life. So while I'm here, make me happy and let the Bengals win as many games as possible. That's where I'm at with it. I don't believe in tanking. And tanking with 5 wins right now, we're still going to end up with 6, 7 wins, and that's not going to put you where you want to be. And no, give me Bengal. The only game, Jordan, in my life, there was only one time, and I've been watching the Bengals since 76. I know that makes me sound old. I know I don't look it, but I've been a Bengals fan since 76. I have seen every game since 92, with a couple small exceptions of like the VCR didn't tape back in the old days, whatever. I'm rambling. But the only game I ever wanted them to lose was the Miami game that went into overtime with the Tyler Eifert touchdown. And like, we were just doing everything we could to come back, this miracle comeback, a successful onside kick. And the loser of that game was getting Joe Burrow. That was the only game ever. And I was ashamed at myself for wanting them to lose, but that was the only time ever. And I will probably never feel that way again. And certainly not in 2023.
I just don't get it. You lose every single game. You're going to have what? The 7th pick? Even if you lose every single game, you might have the 6th, 7th pick. That's not even a top 5 pick. Who are you going to draft? Like, this Bengals team, drafting-wise, is not as great as people think, in my opinion. Okay, you're going to draft an offensive lineman? When's the last time you developed an offensive lineman? You're going to draft a tight end, Brock Bowers? What have first-round tight ends done in the draft the past decade? Absolutely nothing. Are you going to draft a potential wide receiver replacement for Higgins? You're cashing in on things that haven't happened yet, and there's too much of a risk. Are you going to tank and get a receiver, but that receiver might not be good? And what if Higgins is willing to take a pay cut? Oh, you just tanked for nothing. And it's like you have to change your whole draft evaluation. You don't know who you're going to draft because with the players in free agent who might come back, might not come back when it comes to free agents. And then you look at the fact that Higgins, Boyd, Reeder, this is their final year of the contract before they become free agents in a couple months. Do you want to be their last potential time being in the Bengals and their last year in the Bengals under contract tanking? That's going to have a sour taste in their mouth, and you're not going to want to re-sign if you're spending the whole rest of the season tanking when they're playing for a contract. They're playing to win games. They're playing to your franchise to try to win a Super Bowl, but instead you're tanking and just losing and basically banking on the draft pick that's going to replace them pans out well when this team has a bad history of draft picks. And it makes no sense. It's not worth the risk. People say, well, if we're last in the division, we get an easier schedule. Okay, we might be last in the division. That doesn't mean we tank. Like, every single team in the AFC North is good. We lose that game. Even if Burrow plays this Sunday, right now we're still last in the division. This division is tough. Just because we're last doesn't mean this team is bad, doesn't mean it's tanking. It's just one of those things. There's way more negatives than positives. I just don't buy into it at all. You're banking on stuff that hasn't happened yet. And if you tank, there's even more uncertainties. We've already talked about it. There's enough already. Don't cause yourself more issues by having more uncertainties and more question marks heading into the offseason when just try to win games. It's that simple. Like you said, if you have a year to live, you want to watch the Bengals to win. You don't watch them. You don't want to watch them and be like, oh, we're tank, and be like, oh, I guess we'll never know what happened if we got that draft pick or not. And if he panned out, like seriously, do not tank. It's stupid. It's pointless. Burrow was the rare exception, one of the best quarterback prospects ever. It's not like we're getting the first pick, and it's not like we're going to have somebody who changes our franchise like Burrow. We have that guy. So there's no point in doing it. I just tanking is not a good decision in my opinion.
Yeah, we're gonna just not enjoy the rest of the season and then get another offensive lineman that may or may not pan out. Like you said, like a whole line of them. It's not worth it. Like you approached it in a more mature aspect than I did. You approached it from an organizational standpoint, which I agree with. You know, you don't want to create uncertainty. You don't want to have these veteran players lose faith in the organization. Those are the big things. I was really presenting it from a personal view. Like, no, I'm having too much fun with this. Don't lose games because I don't like losing games. But anyway, great points, Jordan, for real.
It's just not worth the risk, in my opinion. There's too many risky things to go into it. I mean, like you said, we're going to draft another Miles Murphy. We're going to draft somebody to be a replacement, let's say for Higgins or Reader, but, he's a project player, and he's going to play in 2 years. So you're banking on somebody in this upcoming draft, and then you're banking on 2 years when he has his potential when he's ready to start.
And listen to this: David Klingler, Achilles Smith, Peter Warwick had his highs and lows, John Ross, Darquez Denard, I don't know, I'm just Billy Price. You know, give me the worst of all time, possibly non-quarterback, Cedric Ogbuehi. Like, think about all that. You know, like, first-round picks aren't always going to work out. So what? We want to move up 7 slots from where we were going to be, and to do that, we're just going to be miserable for the rest of the season. It's just not worth it to me.
Offensive lineman, I think we've talked about this before. When's the last time the Bengals have developed a halfway decent offensive lineman? 10, 12 years? I mean,
you go back to Levi Jones and Willie Anderson era. Like, I can't even think of another one really. And Stacey Andrews, I don't know, but like that's really going back. Who recently? There's no one on the Volson, I guess, right? He's not lighting it up, but we think he's working out. But no, you're 100% right.
And like I've seen people say, we should get a Joe Alt. I think it's the offensive lineman from Notre Dame. I've not followed the draft much this season. I'm not even going to act like I have, but Alt's one of the best offensive linemen. And it's, we should get him. Why? Like, we have offensive linemen. They're better than people get credit for. People say, Burrow, he's hurt. The offensive line sucks. The offensive line is better than people think. People just say that because, they're casuals, and they just love to complain and love to point the finger at the offensive line. You're not going to get the offensive line better if you can't develop one. It's not a coincidence when you look at Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, or Orlando Brown. They're all outside. They're all outsiders. They were all free agents. We have to sign offensive linemen because we cannot develop an offensive lineman to save our life. Ogbuehi, Jake Fisher, Billy Price. I mean, they all suck. Like, we should not be banking on something like this. And then maybe it's not offensive lineman. Maybe it's tight end. Well, I mean, Brock Bowers, he's a generational prospect at tight end. We hear this every couple of years. Kyle Pitts, he's going to be great. He was drafted before Chase.
I know.
Like, that's insane. He's not a top 10 tight end, maybe? Like, I know
the other guy over there is getting as much action as him. I forget his name, but he's a veteran.
It's absolutely crazy. And maybe it's wide receiver. I will say wide receivers normally have worked out well for Cincinnati, but you're banking on a player who could be fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth pick overall. To fill in the void of T. Higgins already, that's a lot of responsibility for a guy who's never played a snap. And I know I'm kind of getting the point across, but it just makes no freaking sense. Like,
and what's the wish list, really? All right, so you want a top 10 pick. What do we really need? All right, maybe a right tackle, maybe a tight end, like you mentioned. Although Tanner Hudson's been playing great. You always need pass rushers, but I mean, if you just take the starters, Hendrickson and Hubbard are fine. The linebackers are great. The secondary is young and up and coming. We have plenty of receivers. We have more running. We can't even get Chris Evans in the lineup. You know what? My wish list for the Bengals: right tackle and backup quarterback. I'll even go with Hudson as the tight end and pick someone third, fourth round at this point. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, when we're saying tank, draft pick, what do we really want? So you just want to replace Jonas? So let's blow the last 7 games?
I mean, it makes no sense. Like, I don't like Williams. I've said before, he's one of my least favorite Bengals. But it's not worth it to do that when, let's say, you get the 8th pick, and then the Titans have the 12th pick, and then they trade up in front of you to get your player.
Yeah.
Crap. We effed up for nothing. Like it just
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense. But like you said, backup quarterback, maybe right tackle. In my opinion, I've said it a couple of times, 3 most important positions: quarterback, backup quarterback, and middle linebacker. We have Burrow, we have, Logan Wilson, we have Pratt. We just look for that backup quarterback, but you're not going to find that, obviously, in the first round. You're not going to – this is a Bengals team who this past season, even the year before, when it comes about the 3rd and 4th round, we're drafting players who really have not really much room on this team. There's not much room on this team for improvements. So even if you get a great guy, I mean, Myles Murphy was a first-round pick. He's playing 10 snaps a game,
Right.
if that. And I know he's a project player, but even if you don't tank, it just goes to back how good this Bengals roster is, that you're having to draft players in the hopes of them being good 2 years from now, banking on the fact that, hopefully he's good. And when Hendrickson, one of the best edge rushers in the league, is off Cincinnati, then Murphy's going to try to fill that void. And that's kind of why I didn't like the Murphy pick. I'm not trying to go back to that, but it's just like you're banking on something that 2 years from now, this roster or 2 years from now is going to be completely different. So why just get somebody now, or maybe even trade the pick to get an established guy? But
yeah. Was Laporta available when we picked? I think he was.
He was a 2nd-round pick. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine the impact that he would have made on this roster. Would have been far more than Myles Murphy, like you said, with his 10 snaps.
Nolan Smith from the Eagles, Laporta, Michael Mayer, who went to the Raiders, Joey Porter Jr., of course.
Yes.
We got him. This tanking idea, we're both on an agreement. It just is not a good idea whatsoever.